Well, meteorologist Brandon Lashbrook here, and there is a lot to talk about in the world of weather along the Gulf Coast. Starting off with the obvious, Hurricane Idalia is going to be strengthening before it makes landfall into Florida. But here in Louisiana, we do have a chance for some minor coastal flooding. Drier air is going to be moving in, and that is going to increase our fire risk coming to Wednesday and Thursday. But here is satellite presentation of Hurricane Idalia. We see we are losing sunlight on the satellite presentation there, but seeing some robust convection or storm activity near that circulation, that center, as it does move briskly off to the north now at 16 miles per hour. So this is the 7 p.m. update. Current winds of 105 miles per hour for max sustained winds. Pressure dropping down to about 965 millibars. And so right now on the satellite presentation, I want to point out where that center of circulation is at, where we are starting to see some clearing right about there of that hurricane's eye, where we are seeing clearing those clouds, a little bit of a pinhole eye right now, a small eye center right there, but that's going to be moving to the north. Of course, this is a system moving, going to make landfall pretty soon, coming to about maybe 12 to 24 hours from now into parts of early Wednesday morning. But here is current radar from the Tampa radar showcasing, seeing a good band of some rain and some storms, a lot of lightning too, going to be moving into portions of the Florida's west coast. And so there is the eye presentation on the radar right now. You can see that clearing of any rain out there as we have that sinking air within the eye of the hurricanes to produce so much clearing of those clouds and ending of that rain too. So we do have a tornado watch into effect for portions of the west coast until about 6 a.m. Eastern time in Florida as well. And so the center of this storm is roughly or so nearing the coast of the west of the coast right now, about 125 miles or so off the west coast of Florida. But of course, this system is going to be moving to the north and northeast toward the Big Bend of Florida, and that's going to be bringing, of course, a whole host of impacts, including a surge, flooding, rain, as well as lots of wind. Now, as it begins to move to the north and northeast, going to our Tuesday, here is Idalia on the moisture content in the atmosphere moving across the area. So we do have a frontal boundary near our region here in Louisiana, and as the system begins to move east and northeast away from us, we're going to be seeing easterly winds near the coast before on Wednesday, and then as we begin to see that system move away from our area on the backside, we're going to have northerly winds coming in over southeast Louisiana. That's going to help bring some dry air in place too for midweek here for our region. So with some of these indirect impacts from Idalia, so we're not expecting any direct impacts, but we are seeing it influence our weather pattern a little bit over the next couple of days. So we do have a coastal flood advisory in place until about 7 p.m. on Wednesday for some of these east-northeasterly winds to bring some elevated surf over the area. We could see some minor coastal flooding around portions of the coast of Mississippi, near Slidell, and near Port Sulphur as well. So that's going to be one issue, as well as some wind gusts on the backside of the system as it moves away. We'll have some northerly winds. It could be a little bit breezy at times, anywhere from about 10 to 15 miles per hour, with gusts up to about 20 to maybe even 25 miles per hour on our Wednesday. Now that's going to enhance our dry conditions. It's hot out there as well, which will enhance and increase our fire risk. So tomorrow we do have the reintroduction of a red flag warning in effect for the area from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. for our day tomorrow. So of course we still have that statewide burn ban, so we'll make sure you do avoid any fires and any burning out there to make sure we don't have any fires that can start and spread rapidly, because that could possibly be the case if any fires do start. Now going back to Idalia, here's the official hurricane track for it. This is the 7 p.m. Central Time update, so 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Does have it still reaching Category 3 status before landfall somewhere near the Big Bend region, or the Big Bend coast of Florida's west coast. And zooming in a little bit, so it is forecasted to be around 115 mile per hour winds at 1 a.m. on Wednesday. So we do have hurricane warnings in the red right there, and hurricane watches, and still tropical storm warnings down to the south, where we are expecting, of course, her impacts to occur well outside of that cone of uncertainty, of course. Now, here are some of those impacts that we can expect in Florida. Here's the wind threat potential. So there in that pink, where we could possibly see winds or wind gusts of about 110 miles per hour or more, possibly in that red 74 to 110, into the orange 58 to 73, and into the yellow tropical storm force winds into about 39 to 57 miles per hour. So of course, this is a lot wider than that cone of uncertainty, so of course impacts will and do occur well outside of where that cone actually lies. Now, in addition to the wind threat, we do have the potential for several tornadoes to develop, more so where that orange center lies on that course east and northeast side of the storm as it works its way to the north and northeast, which is why we do of course have that tornado watch in effect for portions of the area until about 6 a.m. Central Time. In addition to that, we are going to possibly see some heavy rainfall with the system as it moves through, although will be moving quite fast as it moves over to inland areas. But we do have a flooding rain threat potential with it, so in that red, a major potential for some flooding rainfall. Could be seeing a lot of rainfall rates as well to cause some inland freshwater flooding, which could be just as dangerous as the surge. Now, we are expecting a decent amount of storm surge with it too across the west coast of Florida, so we do have storm surge warnings in effect across the area, and even a storm surge watch down south near toward Cape Coral. There it is until about Monday as well. So look at the future track winds as the system begins to move toward near where that Forgotten Coast is and where the Nature Coast kind of lies in that Big Bend region. So we could be seeing some a lot of rainfall there, as well as some heavier winds too. And look down to the south, we have winds coming out of the south and southwest, and of course that is just going to be pushing water near pretty shallow shelf waters along the Gulf Coast there, really pushing in that water into portions of Tampa Bay. And of course, this coastline is very vulnerable to surge as well. So all that water gets pushed up and gets collected along that coastline, which of course can produce some extreme to catastrophic storm surge in some areas. So looking at some of the projected peak storm surge values here in that purple, where landfall will be closest to, possibly up to about 10 to 15 feet of surge, and even down toward Tampa Bay, where of course that water can collect within the bay itself right there. Could be looking at anywhere about 4 to 6 feet of storm surge as well. So we always want to say you run from the water as well as hide from the wind too. So looking at the future track, here's our Baron 3K model showcasing the Hurricane Idalia beginning to move to the north and northeast. And notice a lot of these feeder bands will be coming in on the east and south side, even as the core of the storm is going to be making its way toward possibly near Tallahassee or anywhere near Perry, Taylor County as well. So notice even down toward Tampa, you're going to be seeing a feeder band of moisture just wrapping around the system, and where we could be having that tornado threat as well, and just draining rain. So we have rain just piling up on each other over and over time, which of course can produce some flash flooding as well as some inland freshwater flooding. Now, as you go toward about Wednesday morning after landfall roughly or so, the system will be weakening into most likely a tropical storm by then, but even portions of Georgia and even to the Carolinas can still feel the impact, because notice the winds in this direction are coming from the south and southeast as well, and so that's pushing water onto the shore there too. So they could potentially have some storm surge too into the Carolinas as the system begins to move east and over to the open Atlantic waters as well. Now, outside of Idalia, we are still looking at Hurricane Franklin. Now, this storm was quite strong yesterday. We had 150-mile-per-hour winds at Category 4. Now, it has weakened since yesterday, current winds of 125 miles per hour. But look at that structure. It's losing some of its symmetry as it has last night, but you can still see that well clearly defined eye right there. Current track takes this well out into the open water, so not going to be going over land. Thankfully, going to be accelerating into the open Atlantic, then gradually weakening to a Category 1 or so tropical storm as you go toward about the end of this week. So this storm, as you can see, is kind of close to the Carolinas as well, so it could be producing some of the rough rip current conditions along the eastern coast of the U.S., maybe some high seas as well, but luckily no direct land impacts from that system. Now, this morning we had newly named Tropical Depression 11. This is going to be forecasted to become a tropical storm, but not really going to be affecting any areas of land. It's going to be moving over open water and will not be an issue for anyone. Now, outside of that, we have those three systems, and just to the east of all that, tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa with a 60% chance of development over the next 7 days. Although thankfully, this one as of right now looks like it's going to remain over the open waters. So right now, not going to be a threat to any land. So a lot going on into the tropics, and so of course we're not even at the peak exactly of hurricane season just yet. Of course, that climatological peak is September 10th, and so we're just nearing there. So of course we still have plenty of hurricane season left to go through October and even to portions of November as well. And so as we head into the month of September, when we typically see the most activity, is the most active month, we can typically look for a tropical storm development or genesis anywhere into the main developmental region here in the central Atlantic, even into the western Atlantic too. So this is, of course, the most active month, one we have to remain the most vigilant as well. And of course, we'll always keep you up to date here with any tropical threats along the Gulf Coast over our region here in Louisiana as well. Of course, on air and online, BRProud.com.